Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome everybody. Great to see so many attendees joining this wonderful sessions we have with two Microsoft PMs. Please note that we made sure that all microphones are muted during this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We will do our best to answer them. A little heads up, the session will be recorded, so if you do not want to be recorded, you are of course free to leave. Now, please welcome Mukta and Kanishka. Please tell us more about Microsoft Defender for Endpoint.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kanishk. I'm the GPM for Microsoft's MTD offering. That's MD for Android and iOS application. And today, Mukta and I will be walking you through this presentation. So with that, let's actually get started. Yeah. So in today's session, what we'll cover is why MTD. Basically, we'll talk about the threat landscape and give you a view into why this is critical. We'll talk about the features that we have in store for you in the product. We'll give you demos of some of these features so that you get a very good understanding of like how some of these things work. We'll also give you a glimpse into the roadmap, and finally we'll open it up for Q&A towards the end. Okay, so the primary thing here is to understand that on-prem security is something that organizations understand quite well. They have put in a bunch of measures to secure that. But whenever humans are involved, it definitely adds an added element of risk to the overall ecosystem there. And to that, like what adds more complexity is when mobile devices come into the play, because now you have an important element of your ecosystem changing completely. You're going outside the organization boundaries, your BYOD starts coming into play. And that is why it's very important to secure this. Now, it's not just us who understands this, it's even the attackers. And which is why what we see is like a bunch of news items across across all platforms on mobile, not just Android, which is considered a little more porous, but also iOS, which is a little less notorious. Both are actually vulnerable to these types of attacks. With that, let me actually give you a glimpse into like how some of that attack might actually be working. So here's a demo of such an attack happening. This here, the malware that we are using is Gravity Rat. And malware has an experience that's similar to a chat app. So what you see on the right is an emulator where you see all these, it has a lot of user data in it, which includes these phone call histories or your chat messages and your files that are there. And on the left, you have the fiddler through which we'll see what's happening on the network. So here, what we see is this SMS through which a link is being delivered, which actually points to a malicious app. So that's the way the app may actually enter your ecosystem. You could have a case where it's talking about the fact that you have a problem with your bank account and download this chat app to talk to the folks that are there on the backend. And so the user downloads the app and interestingly gives the permissions associated with it. And you see on the left that all these network activities happen. Let's try and look a little deeper into what kind of activities been going on behind the scenes. So this network activity includes information that's being transferred out. So there is the transmission of all the SMSs that are there. You have multi-factor authentication codes that are that's been sent to the device. That's something that has been exfiltrated. You also have attackers that can get all the device info there, so all the SIM details, etc., which can be very handy when they want to attack the device. Then they could also see all the other information, like let's say call log that's there, or all the contact information that's they're associated with this phone. And what that does is also gives them a view into like how they can actually conduct further attacks based on the information that they've already collected from here, because they know your contact history. They could also send it as an SMS from you and then get into someone else's device as well. And through that, they can start having the file exfiltration happening as well. So this was just like one example of something like this manifesting. Uh, and we already saw what you were seeing in the news, but let's go ahead and see what our research tells us, that how does this entire threat landscape look like and what are the key elements there. So phishing here is the most important threat vector. Most of the attacks here essentially happen outside of your corporate email, and the attackers would normally leverage social engineering to actually conduct these kind of attacks. Then there's malicious application. So very, very common on Android, not a key threat vector on iOS, largely because iOS is a more tightly controlled ecosystem. Then there are vulnerabilities, both on the OS side and on the app side. So something as basic as an OS being vulnerable that's not been updated with the latest patches for the known vulnerabilities. That's very common on Android, but we see that similar things are happening on iOS as well. And we see similar things on happening with the apps, some of the common ones as well. And then finally, like jailbroken devices. So these are not as common, but they're still very important to take care of, because once a device is jailbroken, then all bets are off. So that's why this becomes very, very critical. So with that, let's go ahead and answer the question, why really does someone require a mobile threat defense offering? So we all know that the productivity has gone mobile, and this corporate data is now being increasingly accessed from outside the company's perimeters and on these mobile devices. And this trend has only increased during COVID. Now, since like our usage of and access of corporate data has changed, what has also changed is like how attackers mindset, and they are one of the smartest folks around. So they go where the users are. Essentially, mobile devices give them a great opportunity because security there is actually usually little lax. And a good example here is the huge jump in the phishing attacks that we see on the mobile, we saw on the previous slide as well. And that's why that's one of the chief concerns that enterprises have as they go into BYOD. And finally, as is being highlighted, it's very important to understand that MDM or MAM are just management tools. They will not really protect your organization from these cybersecurity threats. Only a mobile threat defense offering would do that. And that's why it is essential for an organization to have this protection capability. Now, let me actually talk about what kind of capabilities does the product have currently. And we'll start with the web protection, which as the first one. So here the primary thing is anti-phishing, where we provide protection from links that originate not just in email, but in any app, like let's say messaging or WhatsApp, or even your regular browsing session. And please note that all this is agnostic of the browser that you are using. Also, since this is like mobile, it's also important that what's happening on the apps and what kind of data are they sending behind the scenes. and like we ensure that any unsafe connection that's made there behind the scene, that we go ahead and block. Then comes the custom indicators. So all the good work that you've done for Windows, where you would allow a particular domain or block a certain URL, all those things are also carried over to mobile, and now you can have the same protection capabilities on mobile devices. Next comes malware scan. Now here, whether it's malicious apps or potentially unwanted applications or file scan capability, so or the ability to scan the additional storage devices, all these are something that we would cover. Next one up is the jailbreak detection. We'd already talked about the fact that once jailbreak happens, then your device becomes very, very vulnerable, and therefore it's very important for the user as well as the organization to know that it's a jailbreak device that's now trying to connect to your corporate ecosystem, and then organization can take all the right remediation actions based on that. Next one up is our Defender plus Tunnel offering. So that's like secure on-prem connection through VPN. So critically, what we are doing here is building this capability of secure connection within the Defender app, because there are platform constraints that allow only one active VPN connection. So normally an organization would have to choose between either this connectivity or the security offering, because phishing relies heavily on these on-device VPNs to actually provide the protection. But with Defender, you can get both the capabilities together and working concurrently in a very seamless manner. Next one up is the single pane of glass. So all the alerts that you are seeing, be it from phishing or malware or any of these things, like they come in an experience that's similar to what you see on your Windows devices or for your Mac or for your Linuxes. So all the details associated with the alerts, let's say like the logged on user, who's the active user, what are the file details associated with this attack. So all those things is something that you would be able to see. And what makes it even better is admin doesn't have to make any other connections. All that is inbuilt into the ecosystem. Then the next one is threat and vulnerability management. So whether it is about vulnerabilities that are there on the Android and iOS OSs or the apps, all are taken care of. In fact, we will talk about this in much greater detail and also show you a demo for the same. And finally, basically, what kind of coverage do we have here? So we are very tightly integrated with Intune. So we work both with MDM and MAM without enrollment modes. We have deep integration where conditional access can be leveraged by organizations to like block access to corporate data in case malicious app is say into the system, and that's something that we will see shortly. And on iOS, we cover both supervised and unsupervised devices, and on Android, DA mode and various aspects of AE mode are also covered there. Now, finally, all this is powered by Microsoft. So again, it's essentially Defender is part of the 5-device rule. So if you have a license for MDE, you would have a license for the mobile offering as well, covered as a part of this 5-device rule. So let's move on. Yeah. And now I'll hand it over to Mukta to take you through these demos and talk to you about what is in store for us in the coming months as part of our roadmap. Over to you, Mukta.
Thank you, Kanish. Hello, everyone. I am Mukta, Senior PM for Microsoft, and I will take you through the demo of some of the key features which Kanish just mentioned. First being the malware protection and conditional access. So let's see what happens. There is a user who installs a malware on the device. And once they try to open this malware, Defender identifies this and blocks it. They flag the malware as a threat. The trigger is also sent to the security portal. The security admin can see the details. They can see the risk associated with this threat. In the alert section, the timelines, the details of the malware, the hashes on what has happened in the backend in the device can be seen. So in the background, this information is also passed to the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, Intune. And the conditional access policy kicks in, where access to the company resources like Outlook is blocked. Now action needs to be taken. So the user goes to the Defender and uninstalls the malware. The device is healthy now, and this information is passed back to the security portal. And now the access to the company resources is restored. Next, let's see a quick demo on the anti-phishing and the custom indicators. Web protection is on. So web protection provides the anti-phishing capabilities. It is available for both Android and iOS, but for this demo, we will see it on an iOS device, how it is working. A phishing link comes from one of the SMS. Once user clicks it, Defender identifies the phishing site and blocks it. Alert is also sent to the security center, where the security center admin there can see the details of the phishing site. They can analyze what are the details behind the phishing campaign. So there is also a feature to create custom indicators in the security console, where the admin can create certain URLs they can block or certain domains, which their organization wants to block it for the user devices. And once this kicks in, once these URLs and indicators are created, it is also, these sites cannot be accessed on the end user device. For example, let's say a gambling website. This feature is already present on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and now it has been also extended to the mobile. So now this has been saved and it will be applied to the user device. Now let me talk a little bit in depth about the threat and vulnerability management, or TVM. This has been the latest release. TVM provides a proactive approach for security to effectively identify, assess, and remediate endpoint weakness, which is pivotal for security and to reduce the organization risk. According to research, 1,000+ apps gets added to the app stores every day. And there are more than 2 million apps in Apple Play Store and more than 3 million apps in Google Play Store, out of which 38% of iOS apps and 43% of Android apps have high-risk vulnerabilities. TVM provides an actionable information to mitigate threats and vulnerabilities. This feature was already available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and now it has also been there for mobile platforms, Android and iOS. So let's walk through each of the features. The vulnerability assessment of Android and iOS operating systems. vulnerability assessment of Android apps. It will be also lighting up soon for iOS apps. There is an exposure score, which provides the overall risk score for the organization across the vulnerabilities for all its devices. Lower the exposure score, better. To lower it, there are security recommendations based on the vulnerability assessment. We also have the software inventory details currently for Android. iOS will be coming soon. And then TVM has already been there for all the native platforms, Windows, Mac, and Linux with the native integration. Some of those capabilities are also integrated for TVM Mobile, like the weakness page, advanced hunting, events, and notifications. So that being said, let's take through a TVM demo in action. When TVM kicks in, how does that look like?
Hi everyone, welcome to this demo. Threat and Vulnerability Management, or TVM, helps provide actionable information to mitigate threats and vulnerabilities in your environment, quickly reducing your overall exposure. TVM is a component of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and is available on Windows and Mac and was recently announced GA on Linux. This video demonstrates the upcoming capabilities on mobile. With TVM in mobile, enterprises can act quickly on the vulnerabilities in their environment across all platforms long before they can be exploited by adversaries. Getting started with TVM on mobile is easy. Once the Android and iOS devices are onboarded on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you will start getting insights on the security console. There are a lot of capabilities that exist today for Windows, Mac, and Linux, but for now, I'll focus on what will be available for Android and iOS in our upcoming release. First, you will notice an exposure score on the TVM dashboard. This score reflects how exposed your assets are to threats. Lower the score, lower the exposure. With TVM support added in mobile, exposure score will include Android and iOS devices as well. To improve this score, you can follow some of the top recommendations that are seen in the dashboard. You can see the security recommendations to remediate the vulnerabilities reported on the OS versions and the apps installed on the onboarded mobile devices. Select one for more details, like the impacted devices and vulnerabilities that are addressed by following this recommendation. Let's look at the dashboard again, where we see the top vulnerable softwares. This will take us to the software inventory, where you can see more information about the software, the weaknesses, and the active threats. You can see more details about the application, like the devices the application is installed on, the vulnerabilities and the version distribution, and any related security recommendation. Select the remediation option to see exactly how to remediate this weakness. This will create a security task on Intune, which can be monitored in the remediation page. Lastly, the exposure distribution provides a quick view of the devices that are exposed in your environment, grouped by risk. With mobile support, this will include Android and iOS devices. To see the devices in a specific risk category, click on the pie chart to go to the device inventory. This shows the devices at risk. You can see more details about the device, like software inventory, security recommendations, and the discovered vulnerabilities. That was a quick overview of the upcoming mobile support in TVM.
So that was about TVM. Now let's see what are the upcoming features and what we have in roadmap for Defender for Android and iOS. First, we have the personal profile. Android already supports the device administrator DA mode and AE work profile, but there was a strong ask to even support for the AE personal profile. So this will be coming up shortly. Next, we have the network protection, the Wi-Fi protection, which is already in preview. It will provide the detection of man-in-the-middle attacks and also provide protection against the rogue Wi-Fi access points. There is also privacy controls. We have already introduced a bunch of functionality in Defender app already for privacy controls, but we are also going to bring up soon privacy controls for admin, end users, and unenrolled the MAM devices, where there will be granular controls for admin to set on what data is collected. At the same time, also granular controls for the end user on what data should be collected from their devices. Just want to reiterate, Microsoft does not look at their personal data and respects the privacy of its users. So with that, that's all we have for now. And just want to flash our most frequently asked questions. So you can take a look at our public documentation, the technical blog, and you can reach out to us over here.
Yeah, so with this, we would want to open it up. So any questions that anyone has, please feel free to ask, and we'd be glad to address any queries. There were a couple of questions that had come in the chat. Let me just take that up and quickly talk about them as well while other questions come in. So first one was the availability of tunnel on iOS. So as I'd written on Android, it's already GA. This functionality is there and can be used. On iOS, it's right now in preview, and our preview customers are trying that out. And this quarter, we will also be GAing the capability on iOS. The other question from Yugur was around the fact that whether Defender works on BYOD devices with MAM policies. So yes, it does. So it works both in the when the device is managed or essentially enrolled, which is the MDM mode, or whether it's in the MAM mode. So both of these capabilities are there on both platforms. So is this included in Defender for Business? So on the SMB side, the offering right now is something that's being built, and this is something that will be launched shortly. So right now, as far as my understanding goes, it may not be included in, let's say, the business standard version of it, but we would be coming up with a business equivalent offering shortly. So any more questions, anyone?
If there are any questions, you can ask them in the chat. The people are not able to unmute themselves. So if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat.
We can give everyone a couple of minutes, but till then I would just want to thank everyone for their time and also the questions that they posed. So it was, again, it is useful. This platform is important for us because we understand, although it's a core security offering that we are going after, the session makes a lot of sense for the audience that understands the management space, because that's the path through which securing a mobile device journey goes. All our customers are first managing their devices, and then they're trying to figure out whether they really require a security offering or not. And that's the journey that we are taking, trying to make sure they understand what threats are out there, and then giving them a path through which they can actually turn these capabilities on in a manner that's as seamless as possible, something that they already understand through their other Defender ecosystem, as well as all these things should just be deployable as easily as they do any other apps through their mem console. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your time. And it was great having you here for the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing us this session about Defender. Next at 12 o'clock, we have two sessions from our sponsors. One is from Nexthink. It's end-to-end workplace analytics in a single pane of glass. And in that session, we have the prize top 10 announcements. And in room 2, we have Endpoint Cyber Protection 2.0, and that's from our sponsor, Acronis. So please join these sessions at 12 o'clock. And in the meantime, you can also join the sponsor booths of our sponsors. So thanks for attending and have a nice day.